The question is, how much money have you lost in an investment? I assume that was the most you've lost in your many years of working with businesses, entrepreneurs. What would you say is the one reason people lose everything? Because we hear the story. I lost it, gained it all over again, lost it again. Why do people lose? You know.
I think they lose because they don't use sound judgment and they don't consider all of their options from an investment perspective.
And so I wanted to have this conversation knowing the position that you do have as a CFO, Chief Financial Officer. You know, you've been in the company that you work with for a while. You've worked with a bunch of businesses. You know, you've seen the ins and outs of the expense, the income, how people mess up their money, how people make their money, and what people do with their money.
Yep.
And so that's the conversation we're gonna have today. So the first question, just go right into it. I'll have you introduce yourself. Okay. Why should people listen to this conversation?
Well, my name's Daniel Medeiros, as he said, Mr. Akin here. I think, our finances are one of the most critical parts of our lives and everything that we endeavor to do and things of that sort. So, a lot of times you may have heard, money first, or first things first are family, then finances, flow with family and then in your endeavors, what you're endeavoring to do, finances are crucial to get you there. And so to be a good steward of your finances, to be consistent in your finances and such is key to, I feel like, any entrepreneur, any business owner's success, truthfully. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So talking about finances, if you have a framework of what people, how people should use their money wisely, what would that be?
I think one of the first things would be is never put all your eggs in one basket. I discovered, in my early years where I tend to keep everything, in one spot. And then there were different moments and times in life as I grew and developed in industry and in business that I realized really quickly that I didn't have what I needed at a given moment and wasn't really wise. So there was, in my college years, I racked up lots of debt through credit cards and that kind of thing. And one of the first things that happened when I hit college was credit cards and credit card debt and that kind of thing. So I wasn't really prepared at a young age out of the gate. But I feel like, to not have all your eggs in one basket's been really critical. So as I've kind of journeyed through my personal life and then into the corporate world, I've had some tremendous opportunities to grow companies and get companies into positions, into spaces where they could actually pursue other endeavors and move the needle into growth and development. So biggest thing is to not have all your eggs in one basket. Understand your options.
Okay.
Understand where you are today and where you want to be. If you don't know where you want to go, where you want to be, it's hard to plan and it's hard to put a dollar to that. So really critical.
Okay. Well, number 2 be? So don't put your egg in one basket. Diversify.
Diversify, absolutely.
Okay.
Number 2, what is it that you're endeavoring to do? What is the timeline that you're trying to do that in? Do you have a timeline, a time frame for what you're trying to grow and develop your brand or a business and that kind of thing? Developing a timeline would probably be the second thing that I feel like is the most important thing.
Oh, that's cool. So timeline. So let's say someone has a timeline of 5 years. How should it start? Let's say they just started this business. They just signed it up today. It's an LLC. They're thinking 5 years from now, and they want to be financially free. Maybe quit their 9 to 5 and just focus solely on the business. What should they do in the beginning?
First, addressing all your debt. Debt is a weight, and so you want to get rid of debt. Where you can't get rid of debt, the second thing to do would be to consolidate debt. So anything that you have. From a consolidation standpoint, you'd want to do that. Things like that. There's lots of programs in the for-profit and nonprofit sector that can help you get to that place. Consolidating high-interest loans, things of that kind of stuff. student loans as well, things like that. The things that are kind of at the top of the list. That's what I would say about that.
You know what? Let's just go right into me being selfish in this thing. I got student loans, right?
Yes.
And I'm trying to get rid of them.
Yes.
I have worked in nonprofit for a while. I understand that you could basically clear it off after 10 years or something like that, right?
Yes,
is that
possible.
Right?
Yeah, it's
okay,
possible.
It's possible.
Too. Yes.
But not necessarily always the case.
That's correct.
Okay. So I've done, I've worked with Elevate International as a nonprofit, Impact Church as a nonprofit, CFTN as a nonprofit. In the collective of everything, I think it's almost 10 years. What should my next phase be?
I think from the loan perspective, the next phase, well, first you have to understand what your true balances are. I think the second thing is understanding what kind of interest you have. And looking at that, and then the payment terms. What are your payment terms? Are you out 15, 20 years, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And then discovering there's tons of grants available.
Okay.
In the book, there's a great book that provides a lot of various grants. Big companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, UPS, Amazon, they offer significant financial resource to individuals who are entrepreneurs, who are new business owners, things of that sort, that can leverage those funds that oftentimes they all go unused. And so, but you have to understand the first things. What are you working with? What are your interest rates? What are the terms? When you know those kinds of things, then you can approach these things and do the documentation, submit the documentation, that's necessary to leverage those opportunities. But there's tons of untapped resources on the private sector in that regard, and there's also tons of government grants as well that you can tap into, and a lot of people just don't know about it. We probably, when I last checked, we were wasting about $8 billion with a B dollars
really?
in funds that the government had and or private organizations or public entities had that just go down the drain every year because people just don't know what they are. So there's a ton of resources out there.
All right, in that case, we're going to be having a private conversation after this because I'm trying to get that's really the only debt I have is student loans.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good place to be.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, with student debt and student loans, the terms are forever, and depending on what you're carrying there, if you got a low rate but a high balance, you're never going to pay it off.
Yep.
You got to be planning for your babies, for your kids, for their education and that kind of thing. You can't be stuck in yours for the whole time.
That's true.
So yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely, man.
And I got two beautiful babies.
You do, and they're amazing.
Yes, sir. All right, so we've talked about, two frameworks so far. The first one was don't put your eggs in one basket. The second one was to have a plan. And then what would the third one be?
The third one is act upon it.
Huh.
That's the key, right? So we can know what it is, we can talk about it, but the hardest thing that I have found in the world of finance, accounting, whatever you want to call it, is there is no action. We spend a lot of time talking about doing it. We get pumped up and hyped up about doing it, but we don't do anything about it. So the things that you can do that are practical immediately are to have a budget. Have a budget. Know your input, know your output, develop that, move towards that. Every week, every month, every year, whatever that looks like for you, develop a cadence to putting money aside to put towards that which you're wanting to invest in, whether that's family investments, family ties situation, business, entrepreneurship, things like that, necessary to move upon that. And then I feel like the second thing is to invite people around you that are like-minded, that are going to encourage you and help you to move toward action. You don't want to be stagnant. It just doesn't produce much. So actionable things, actionable steps. You don't want to look very far ahead too far because you'll get discouraged. So make small goals, whatever that is, okay? If it's a situation, I got to save $200 a month, and I'm going to pay $200 above what my student loan is and that kind of thing, or whatever the debt is, wherever you're trying to go, it's creating small steps. And as you develop and as you decrease your debt threshold, then with that what would appear that increase, because really it should be increased when you're done paying a debt off, you should be taking that money and moving it towards. So if you're paying 2 here, there's no reason why you shouldn't be paying 4 toward the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's that these are actionable things that we do. So we don't just consider a debt when it's paid and that kind of thing. What we're talking about, you don't consider it done and then just forget about it. You got to put it somewhere. That's another action item. So am I saving it for my future? Am I saving it for my kids' education? Am I trying to buy, a car? Am I trying to buy a house? What am I trying to do to get it done?
That's really good. That's really good. So again, I'll reiterate: do not put your eggs all in one basket.
Yes, sir.
Have a plan, your timeline, and then act on that plan. You
Yes.
know? I feel like that's usually the hard place. That's where people get stuck. Is now people have a plan, but they don't know how to take that first step. It's usually a leap of faith. We had a conversation a couple of days ago about me.
Yes.
On taking that leap of faith, whenever that is.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of the times that's a hard thing for people to do. What would you say that is?
I think there's a number of things. I think it's your upbringing. I think that how you grew up, what you saw mom and dad maybe doing or not doing. I think that's a contributor potentially. I think the other thing, another limiting factor is sometimes fear. So long you can get comfortable for so long that you get used to living in lack and living on the other side of prosperity and in abundance and growth, that you almost fear leaving that place because it becomes so comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I got one other question for you. I know this might overlap in different things that we're already talking about. How should entrepreneurs steward their finances?
I think it goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier, just monitoring and understanding what your output is. Well, first of all, what your input is. What are you bringing in? What's the bottom line? What's your revenue stream? What's that look like? I think understanding that is first. Second is really understanding what you are able to attribute certain dollars and amounts to early on, and such, and looking for opportunities. The other big thing is investors. Look for people that believe in your vision. There's a lot of people that are willing to finance things when you just get it out.
Yeah.
But having a plan. An entrepreneur should have a plan. You have your LLCs. Now, what do I do? What do I do with that? Well, you got to develop a plan, develop a vision, write it down, make it plain, look at it, read it, consider it, ponder it every day.
Yeah.
Don't let a day go by not looking at where you want to be and what you want to accomplish.
Right. Okay. In your many years of working with businesses, entrepreneurs, what would you say is the one reason people lose everything? Because we hear the story. I lost it, gained it all over again, lost it again. Why do people lose?
I think they lose because they don't use sound judgment and they don't consider all of their options from an investment perspective. So a lot of people, we were talking about all eggs in one basket, typically push their money and their finance into one area. You have to diversify. You must diversify. In my own personal life, I learned probably 10 years ago, I didn't diversify, and I put all my eggs in one basket, and overnight I lost it all.
Wow.
So that was a heavy hit.
Yeah.
But now when I've branched out, I've leaned in, I've looked into, and I've even consulted other people that have done the game longer than I have. There's great wisdom there. So seeking out wisdom as well, seeking out counsel too. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We're not required to know everything. If we knew everything, we'd never learn anything.
True.
So I think, diversifying, and yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So let's become a little bit more practical. We've talked about diversifying your income. What does that truly mean? Like, in what ways should people diversify?
I think diversifying from a saving. We'll talk from a savings perspective, an investment perspective, looking at things. When we look at saving and we look at planning for our future, for our business, and that kind of thing, we want to look at things other than just your normal savings account. The interest bearing, the interest yield on those accounts is minimal at best. And so when we look at those kinds of things, we want to look at things like money market accounts, IRAs, Roths, mutual funds, CDs, things like that. One thing that I'm always looking at where I can get my biggest bang for my buck. I'm always looking at, when we talk about diversifying, at all those various areas to see where can I leverage more money. So I think right now in our world, especially, our banking institutions, our financial institutions are reaping the benefits of our hard-earned money.
Right.
So we have to look, and we've got to be a little more strategic on how we're looking. We got to think like these financial institutions from our personal perspectives, so that we can get to where we need to get. But every day, and you don't got to sit there and do your little day trade thing and just be like just crushing it with that. I mean, that's great. That's the thing now.
Yeah.
A lot of these young cats are doing that. I can say young because I got all this gray. But anyway, I'm not going to totally call myself out of the league, but not as playing.
You're a young man, bro.
I know. Hey, yes, received. But I've learned now to turn to those things, and I've even developed some relationships with some key financial institutions that I work with at the corporate level now, and just it's really cool because when you move around the business of it, and you can get into these guys' heads and be like, so what the heck is this? And to get some real insight there, I love sharing that kind of stuff. So those are the kinds of things that I do to try to diversify practically.
Yeah. Talking about savings, I know we talked about Roth IRA because as an entrepreneur, if you're a W-2 employee, you get what is called a 401k.
Yes.
And you could put your money in that, and sometimes your employer might match it or whatever. Sometimes they don't. It just depends. But for business owners that don't necessarily have a 401k, it's a Roth IRA. You should open up a Roth IRA with some kind of bank, and you could put your money into that and then put it into the market as well to earn income that way. Now, I'm talking about money to save. For regular people, you could go to Amex. They have maybe like a high yield savings account. Typically they don't work with, at least I haven't seen Amex work with businesses from a high yields account perspective. What company would you say works with businesses that you know of where you could open up such account?
So there's a few on a more private level. There's a company by the name of Robinhood that has some options available to smaller businesses and that kind of thing. There are some credit unions even offer some things to membership based their membership base in that kind of thing.
Okay.
They have lots of options from the simple checking and savings kind of situation to money market investments, CDs, things like that, mutual funds, and that kind of thing as well. So
you could do it all in one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lot of folks that I've been talking with of recent that kind of have sought me out just through relationship have asked about that. And so they've seen great returns on that investment. I can speak to from that Robinhood perspective. Yeah. There's other ways to diversify. We can talk about things like cryptocurrency and all this other kinds of stuff and that kind of thing. But yeah.
Okay. No, that's awesome. That's cool. Real estate. Is that a form of diversification that people should get into now, or should they wait because of the market? What are your thoughts?
I think real estate is probably the most sound place for investment. But again, you have to understand your input and your output, and you have to be able to plan to get to that place. A lot of people don't have, that cash flow out of the gate.
Gotcha.
You're needing at least, 1% of your purchase price of whatever that is. Now, if we're talking like a tiny home and you want to go to Home Depot and buy your little first tiny home and put it in your backyard, you got some room.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But I'm really not kidding, but anyhow, but that'll work. But if that's what's going to motivate you to get to the next deal, then yeah. But real estate is absolutely the best way. It comes with its own headaches, but yeah, the ROI, return on investment, for those of you who don't know that term, it's okay.
Yeah.
Now you know.
We're all learning.
Learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, your return on investment with real estate is absolutely where you're the biggest bang for your buck.
Okay. Rental versus purchase, stay there for 2 years, sell. Capital gains.
You want to average, if you can stay from a real estate perspective, if you can plan on staying in that piece of property for 5 years, you're going to you're going to have a great investment. Just from a personal perspective here to weigh in on that.
Yes.
We purchased a home, and now the whole world knows about this, not as plain, but we purchased our current home for about, I think it was around $299,000 back 6 years ago.
Okay.
From that point in time, we have that, and we purchased that home as an investment property. To date, we that property we will make about just under $800,000.
Sheesh.
So it's all about location.
Right.
It's all about being still, and just sitting on it. Yes, there's been days it's like, holy cow, like what are we doing? Yeah. But the return on investment and truly God's blessed it too. But yeah, that's where we're sitting on that. And so, the goal is to not stop there. You shouldn't just stop.
Right.
If it's working, work it.
Right.
You know,
if it's working, work it. That's cool. I like that. If it's working, no, never mind.
Yeah, you're saying? All right. Sang, man, sang.
That's cool. Is there like an open lot next to your house that I could potentially purchase?
We're working on it, man. Okay. We're working on it.
Seriously. I'm trying to get into this real estate game. You know? Well, kind of, but my strategy was to sell the initial house that we had and then purchase this one. Which is a different type of strategy.
And the truth is that our current strategy, that's our strategy too.
Right.
It's all, but my strategy is, okay, from my perspective, is say, okay, let's get into what's next, but let's see what else I can get with what I got.
Right.
Does that make sense? So the goal isn't, I'm just going to go, throw all this money into this other thing just because I want a bigger thing, or maybe wifey wants a bigger thing and that kind of thing. But what else can I do to diversify? That's another way to diversify. Okay, well I can put X, I can put $300,000 down, and then I can go spend another $200 on a piece of land or whatever, and put something else there, and begin to save and develop that to become another rental property. So then I've got three,
right,
or what have you. So yeah, there's lots of ways to diversify on the real estate side.
Lots of opportunities as well,
and tax benefits depending where you're at.
Yes,
you got your homestead tax exemptions. If you got a big place, then you can put a cow or some chickens or even a goat. Seriously. There are tax benefits to all of those things. Now, don't go buy 3 goats tonight. It's a real thing that the exemptions are astronomical. And so those come in forms of tax deductions. Well, tax deductions at the end of the year, do the income thing.
Right.
What's your input? What's your output? No reason why, sorry, feds, but no reason why the feds have to keep all my money.
Totally.
Right?
For sure.
So,
hey, that's cool. Okay. That's great. Now, moving on to this other part of it, it's all financial, right? It's a different way to leverage your income, nonprofit. I had a conversation with a business attorney the last podcast, and she opened up my mind to this thing that your nonprofit doesn't have to be a whole different entity. It could literally be something you're already doing within your business, and you could just turn that into a nonprofit.
That's correct.
And so that opened up my mind because I've never thought about nonprofits in that way. So you work with nonprofits. What are some of the ways that you could leverage, your money, your finances with a nonprofit?
Leveraging the money, initially that's kind of tricky. I think developing the biggest thing in leveraging your finances in that space is understanding what additional service lines you can offer within your current. So for instance, you're doing a specific thing. You're doing.
Let's just speak to me. You know, so I have a service based video production company, right? And then I'm going into this route of coaching creatives as well as entrepreneurs about creating content. You know, now what she said to me as a business attorney was like, I could literally turn my coaching program into the nonprofit.
Absolutely.
You know, so let's speak on that.
So thinking about some of the nonprofits that you're currently involved in.
Right.
So we turn in from a wage-based to an invoice-based situation where you are where said nonprofit is now invoicing the said entity that you're maybe currently working under or desire to work under. So that would turn into from a W-2 situation. If you have your ducks in a row and your LLCs and your nonprofit, your 501c3s and all the things, then you begin to determine what that looks like for you.
Interesting.
In your future. That's how I would say we first start. The second way is you would look for other opportunities that are like-minded nonprofit organizations that you can come in that can utilize your services. Okay. And you begin to under that nonprofit that has been developed, begin to work in that specific subset. So from a tiered perspective, you're not just paying me as a normal person, but now I'm invoicing you to pay me, and that begins to fund your nonprofit situation. Right. So then you take a quarter or half the proceeds from that, and you begin to shift it to build the financial outcomes and viability of your nonprofit. So it's very different.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things is to identify, and that's one of the beautiful things about small businesses, like you, in your endeavors. That's a beautiful thing, to be able to support each other in your endeavors. So finding where they may excel, where you could come and bring an added flavor to what they're doing, and under your nonprofit, and then reap the tax benefits of all of that.
Of all that. So in a layman's term, you're saying find other nonprofits that could technically utilize some of what I already offer.
Yes.
And I have my nonprofit.
Yes.
Like set up my nonprofit, work with them as a nonprofit.
Yes.
And then whatever comes out of that could be deducted.
Absolutely. 100% can be.
Okay.
Additionally, there's extra tax benefits to all of those kinds of things as well, where you're not paying taxes if you're operating that way. So that's where the shift has. So when we talk about keeping what's mine, or if we want to talk about keeping all my eggs in the basket, those are the eggs we want to keep in my basket.
Right. That's really cool. So, okay. Another form of way to explain this is, okay, there's a nonprofit that maybe they have creatives, or they have, other creatives, right? My nonprofit could be a coaching program for creatives. Absolutely. And I could go within that entity and say, these are my services, and I could offer it to you for X amount of dollars.
Yes. And
then that comes in, then I could allocate those funds somewhere within the nonprofit that is, I'm not being taxed on that income that comes in.
That's correct. It's tax deductible. It is tax exempt.
This is why the rich get richer, because they know all the plays. And I was talking to my brother last night, and I was telling him the reason people stay stuck where they are is because it's a lack of awareness.
Yes.
And that's the main reason I started this podcast, is to have conversations with people like you, from a perspective of helping other people that are listening to gain this information. And then selfishly for me as well, because in reality, some people are not going to take this game and go do something with it.
That's true.
But guess who is going to do? This guy.
Yeah. Look, and it only takes one to change the whole world, to change the whole thing.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so yes, there's so many things that are available that we, that's why we have to surround ourselves with it. It's not bad that we surround ourselves with people that we may not know. I mean, shoot, we have to do that. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know everything about this thing you do or what's on your heart. I don't. But if I surrounded myself, around you long enough, I'd probably get to know about it pretty quick.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So absolutely, there's lots of things. It's just all about knowing people and finding people that are in the business.
Yes. Yeah. All right. That's good, man. Okay. I got a bunch of stuff in my head now.
Now he can't even carry on.
I'll work through that.
He can't carry
later.
on, y'all. He's got to work. He's got to work through it. He's like sweating over you. Y'all can't see it, but that's good.
Nah, this has been good, bro. This has been really good. All right. So I have this section in my podcast that I developed. I think at the end of last year. It's called, Daniel in the Bible. Your name is Daniel.
I do.
Ironically. Daniel in the Bible. That was
set up. No, I'm kidding.
It was tossed in the den.
Yes.
And it survived. So this section is, are you going to survive? This questions that I'm about to ask.
All right. Let's survive.
Rapid fire. Number one, do you like Dave Ramsey?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I think sometimes Dave gets a little interesting. I'm just going to put it that way. I think he's got some great material and great concepts. I'll just say from my perspective, and I've read it all. My grandmama's mama's grandma probably read it all. I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, he's got some great concepts. I've sat in a lot of his conferences and different things. So I think he's got a lot of good, but I think some of it's not geared fully toward this particular avenue.
Right. Okay. What would you say you've taken from him primarily?
Honestly, diversifying. True. Cool. I mean, that's like one of my words of the year is diversifying. Seriously, cool. Diversifying financially, diversifying relationally, diversifying. Yeah. It has been really monumental for me.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so you touched briefly about a couple years ago. I don't know how long ago, but you lost basically a lot in literally a night. Now the next question is,
a night. One night. That night. I can take you to the place I was sitting.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, it sucked.
It's imprinted in your brain, huh?
Yeah.
The question is, how much money have you lost in an investment? I assume that was the most you've lost. You could decline if you don't want to answer the question.
In a single investment in that time, this is actually, I'll put the date on it. It was back in August of 2015.
Okay.
I was single. I was a single dad. All the things.
Yeah.
I was working for a pharma company, and yeah. So at that time, a little bit ago, 10 whole years ago almost, right? I lost about, if I math the whole math, probably $150,000.
In one night.
In one day.
That's wild.
And I'm just going to put a plug here, y'all. And I love y'all about your 401ks and 401bs. But I'm just going to say, and I think it's a great thing. It's free money, right? Yeah. But remember 401k, not to squirrel, but 401ks and Bs are subject to the market. The market crashes, you crash with the market.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much you put in and they put in, you're losing it.
Wow.
So I lost double. So that's how I lost mine. I put all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Dang.
And in one day,
gone.
I literally was at my computer. I looked at my left screen and I said, there's nothing there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was very very shocking, very disappointing.
I can't imagine the emotional turmoil you probably went through during that time.
It stunk.
Yeah, I bet. That is
But we've rebounded, and that's what matters, right?
For sure. 100 folds.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, beyond what you do in the financial world, you're also a pastor.
Yes.
And a lot of people, they don't understand how pastors could get rich or have money. You know, a lot of times, people see pastors and they think they earn their money, from preaching or whatever. But a lot of pastors, they also diversify and do other things. So the question will be, you as a pastor, being in the financial world, how do you see that potentially coming together? Like, what should pastors do? What do they need to do, to be able to go beyond just how much they make preaching?
I think they need to discover other revenue income streams. I think a lot of times, people, Scripture tells us that without a vision, people perish, right? Mm-hmm. So we can perish quickly in the things that God puts in us, if we don't put to paper and realize what we can do other than, and I found in ministry, one of the I think the blessings that I've had is I've been bivocational most of my ministry time. Right. I've had a few full-time situations, but I've also always been able to so it's been easy for me to have one foot in and one foot out, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But really understanding how you're gifted, what is in you, what you want to get out aside from the pulpit.
Yeah.
What are you passionate about? How are you driven? What are you wanting? In taking a step further, what do you want to see other people accomplish? Mm. Being good stewards, not being stingy or greedy. These are things that I've learned.
Yeah, over the years. Yes, sir. No. Okay. And then now switching, from pastors to Christian business owners. Mm-hmm. I think this is the same question you've answered before, but we're just reiterating the point again. Mm-hmm. How should Christian business owners go about stewarding their money?
I think return on investment. Am I putting my full foot forward in what it is that I'm going into or I want to accomplish from a business perspective? Am I surrounding myself with like-minded people? Am I present? And this is another thing that just kind of hit me. Am I involved in the development of what it is that I want to create? Mm. Am I involved in it at a distance, or am I really in the weeds of it? Am I really doing the thing?
Yeah.
Or am I just talking about it and not surrounding myself, with like-minded people, and looking at the various people that could help me grow and develop as a business owner?
Yeah. Okay. And I find out that a lot of Christian entrepreneurs just struggle with, the idea of making more money. Mm-hmm. It might be because of the church or the things that they've learned within the church. Sometimes mm-hmm. people think that you're not supposed to make a lot of money, when in reality, make enough money to be able to take care of your family and then take care of the church as well. 100%. I think that's where the balance is for me, and that's where a shift has begun to happen within me, because I love the local church.
Yes.
I grew up in a local church. I enjoy being able to push God's kingdom in that way. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm in the church or outside of the church, that's what I hope to do with my life, because when I realized that I had this gift for creativity, I think I was really like 18 years old when I said, this is what I want to do for you, and everything happened right after that. Mm-hmm. I'd lived my life as a creative. My parents, in the house, musicians, my brother's musicians. My brother was a music producer in LA, like music and creativity has been a part of me. Yeah. But it wasn't until I said, this is what I want to do for you, before that gift was fully released.
100%.
And once I made that decision, like, that's all I've been doing. Like, I've tried other things outside of it that hasn't worked out for me. But every time I come back into the creative aspect of things,
It's where life is
That's
for
where
you.
life is for me, man.
It's where life and fulfillment, joy,
Yes.
And that's where I would encourage everybody, listen, that's where you need to live. Discovering that, living it, allowing yourself to live it. If you're in any environment that is keeping you from experiencing that, I would question it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, because there's so much that that God does put in us that has to get out. And it doesn't have to get out just because it gets out, because there are people waiting for what we have.
Right.
And if we're greedy, if we're quiet about it, if we're fearful about it, if we're comfortable, whatever that looks like, we're not only delaying our progress and our growth in our endeavors, but we're potentially, I would submit to you that we're doing the same for others.
That's true.
And it's my position that, I, especially as Christians, Scripture says that it's His will that we prosper. That's what Scripture says. So if the Bible said it, it's right? So there's nothing wrong with Christians having wealth and growing in wealth and such. But we should be good stewards. Right. We should, be good stewards and use wisdom as we attain that wealth. I think a lot of people feel like it's not healthy because they've seen a lot of crazy.
Right.
And they see is it, we can go down the road, is it bad to have a Corvette? Okay, have a jet, those kinds of things. I don't think that's all bad.
Yeah.
I think it's the heart that's portrayed in all of that. And it's how it's shared and communicated on both sides of the spectrum. Well, you're not doing enough. When we read in Scripture, there's one woman who gave her very last. Right. Right. And what happened? She got it all back, then some. Right. So it's not all about just, okay, let me drop $100,000 check in the offering bucket. It's more than that. Yeah. It's a heart posture. It's a heart position too. I'm hitting that mic. My bad.
You're good.
Just kidding. But anyway.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's really good. And that's why I think everyone is creative, because we're all made in the image of God. So therefore we are created in His likeness. As He is creative, so are we. And I believe that we lose a part of our creativity because of the everyday life and world that we do live in, and having to survive. But I truly believe that sometimes our survival is found in the creative ability that we do have.
I would agree.
And even beyond our survival, the prosperity of our lives is found in the lineage of our creativity with the Lord.
Absolutely.
If we're able to find discover what that creative gift is, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're good with the camera or how to paint or draw. There are CPAs that are creatives.
Absolutely.
There are HVAC installers that are creative.
100%.
And once you're able to unlock your mind into that creative ability, you're able to unlock something new and different for your life.
Yeah, and you're unleashed in your purpose, truthfully.
Yes, sir. All right, as we wrap up here, just talking about finances and talking about diversification and then unlocking that creative aspect to truly get you to your purpose and your destiny in a sense. What is the last thing you want to leave us with?
There's a lot I could do or I could say, but I think honestly, the investment of time, talent, and treasure at the end of the day is absolutely worth it. And I'll just say, if your heart's right, if your motives are right, if you're driven and you allow God to speak to you in such a way that will literally push you forward, those are the first steps to take in really attaining financial peace, I feel like. And I've experienced. And so I would just, I'm just going to be 100, right?
Yeah.
Our culture has taught us to live and to walk with our hands wide open. I have learned more with my hands closed and my eyes up than I've learned with my hand open looking for the next thing. I have learned so much with my hands closed, eyes up, and listening really intently on where I'm to go, what I'm to do with what I've been given, and how to steward it well. Every time I've asked God about what to do with it, every time I hear and I have such clarity. So my encouragement is hands closed, eyes up, and a heart that's postured to really live out and to pursue what's in you and live and reap in the benefits. If it's your business, if it's a corporate space you're occupying, if it's just your family, whatever it is, live in that moment and live live in fulfillment in that regard.
Yeah.
Find fulfillment there.
Yeah. I like that, bro. Thanks so much, man. Like it's been great to, to have your friendship and to just, see, the way God uses you to bless others as you have for me and my family, and the words you've spoken, the prayers you've spoken over us. So I just deeply appreciate you, bro, for just the way you allow God to use you.
Absolutely, man. It's
thank
been
you.
a pleasure. Your family's a treasure. And I'm just going to say, and there's all of you out there, but there's more in you, sir, to encounter. There's more for your family to discover. And I just believe that God's going to honor that in your life as you are intentional and purposeful about getting these things out and talking with people and doing your thing, man. You're doing it well. And I'm proud of you for how you're walking, man.
Thank you, sir.
You're truly an example. And you're needed in this generation. So that's it.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you. Thanks for jumping up in on the creative, Dan. Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Always.
Yeah, like we always rap, you're created to create something, so go create.
Do it.